The computer that saved Apple and Steve Jobs' career. The year was 1997. The Apple executives became frustrated with the in-house development of macOS continually missing deadlines, as well as the continual annual financial losses. This resulted in the acquisition of Steve Jobs' latest company, Next, as well as the onboarding of Steve as interim CEO of Apple. Armed with Next's operating system Next Step and a vision of unthinkable translucent personal computers, Steve Jobs set out to develop the world's most beautiful and usable personal computer, to be released in May of 1998. The design was so iconic and well accepted that Apple sold nearly 800,000 units by the end of 1998. The original 1998 Bondi Blue iMac redefined personal computers as a piece of art rather than a beige appliance. And I couldn't resist having one of these groundbreaking pieces of technology in my own collection. Contrary to the belief of many, all translucent iMacs are not Bondi Blue. I see many iMacs and iBooks listed on eBay as Bondi Blue when in fact they are actually Blueberry. Bondi Blue was the only color offered in the first run released in 1998. These units were well spec'd with 233 MHz PowerPC G3 CPU, 32 MB RAM, 4 GB hard disk, and a 24x tray load CD-ROM drive. A Bondi can also be identified by the mezzanine expansion port, which was very short-lived, underutilized, and discontinued along with the iconic infrared port during the movement to the next revision, the 5 Fruits. A year after the introduction of the iMac, Apple released the 5 Fruits in April of 1999, which was largely the same under the hood, with the PowerPC G3 processor being upgraded to 333 MHz and an upgrade to a 6 GB hard drive. There are, however, a lucky handful of iMac owners who possessed an iMac nearly as rare as unicorn teeth. While technically a 5 Fruits iMac, a handful of leftover Bondi Blue shell stock was used in the early runs of the 5 Fruits Revision C. Only a handful of these seem to have ever existed, making it unique and a true treasure if you have one. Neither the Bondi nor the 5 Fruits came with Wi-Fi as standard, but was available through an optional airport upgrade card. I was able to pick up 2 of these early tray load models, a Bondi Blue and a Blueberry. These units were stored in a warehouse where it looked like they were dragged along a concrete floor at some point. They were both a terrible, complete mess and scratched up beyond all reason. The imagery really doesn't do it justice. It was like seeing Vincent van Gogh's original The Starry Night being used as bedding in a chicken coop. I couldn't let this be the end for them. I started with a basic cleaning using some general-purpose cleaner. It wasn't just dust though. There was oil, grease, grime all over these poor things, even inside. I did a more thorough cleaning later, but I needed a preliminary cleaning just to keep my workspace clean. Unfortunately, out of the 2 iMacs, only the Blueberry would power on. The Bondi would light the LED momentarily, then chime, then go dead before the CRT would light up. It seems to be a common problem, often related to the power supply. I decided to restore the Bondi for a couple of reasons. The Bondi was the first iMac ever made, and that's just a wonderful piece of history to have. The Bondi shell was in slightly better condition, being the scratches were not as deep. Deeper scratches also didn't show as badly on the Bondi due to its darker hue. The Blueberry had some visually unpleasant yellowing at the rear as well, which the Bondi did not, although the front bezels on the Bondi did appear to uniformly have a slight more yellowish hue. I started disassembly and removed the suspected faulty power supply from the Bondi iMac. I then started disassembling the Blueberry iMac. I began to realize that the bezel yellowing was actually the CRT frame underneath the clear bezel, so at this point it was obvious I had to use the Blueberry CRT as a base for the project. I moved over the infrared module to the Blueberry chassis, which fit perfectly. All the screw holes were present and the screws created the necessary threads on their way in. I removed the EMI shield due to some rust and a slight crease on the top. I tried cleaning the rust with only some success, but I was able to bend the crease out of it. I cleaned and blew compressed air as I went along, trying to clean anything that I could. I cleaned inside the Bondi shell and began reassembly. I used some automotive wax to attempt buffing out some bad scuffs along the top. This was proving to be successful, although this was making too much mess. So I decided I would have to do this outdoors. I finished cleaning and reassembling the machine. I did remove the 3.6 volt lithium clock battery. These have a tendency to leak, destroying everything in their path over time. Because this computer is intended to be stored and only used occasionally, I don't mind setting the clock time each time I use the machine for the peace of mind of not having corrosion. Fortunately, although things like feet and stand mounts were missing on the Bondi, they were intact and ready for transplant on the Blueberry. Lastly, I got to buffing. I masked off areas I didn't want to buff, as well as areas which had openings or vents. I tried various combinations of wax, cutting compounds, and headlight restorer. The headlight restorer is designed for plastic, so I thought it might work best, but retrospectively I'm not sure it did significantly better than just wax. The buffing did wonders in removing surface scuffs. The tray-load iMac shells are made of textured plastic. Although I didn't want to alter the factory texture, the shell was extremely abused, and the video really doesn't do it justice. I tried to find the best balance. One thing I will note is that the iMac was obviously dragged upside down on concrete. With enough buffing, the top plastic literally did look like new again. Even the Apple emblem was severely scuffed, but was restored to near new condition. What did you think of the video? Do you have one of these iconic iMacs? I have a number of exciting upcoming projects planned, including vintage software and game reviews for this iMac, an iMac G3 Indigo slot load restoration, a black and white Macintosh Classic restoration, a Commodore 64 restoration, and review, as well as many others. Please like and subscribe to join me on the journey of vintage computer restoration and reviews. What else do you want me to restore? Please comment below. And here it is, a rags to riches story of how I restored an original Bondi Blue iMac G3, the computer that saved Apple and Steve Jobs.